Hi everybody, I'm Professor Rad, and today we're going to talk about how you can change fractions into their equivalent decimal format. So, um, in the last video, we talked about rational and irrational numbers, and one of the things that we mentioned is that rational numbers are numbers that can be written in fraction form, or we can think of them in decimal form as decimals that either end or repeat. So that means we've got this connection between fractions and decimals. In the last video, we said that every fraction is equal to either a terminating or a repeating decimal, and that irrational numbers cannot be written in fraction form. So how do we write a fraction as a decimal? Well, we're going to use that fraction bar as a division. And the reason that there's this connection to division with fractions, if we remember how we envision a fraction, you would take like an entire candy bar or a whole pie and you divide it up into the denominator many equal pieces. So if I have fifths, I'm dividing a whole object into 5 equal pieces. I'm breaking it up. So that's where division is coming from. You've got something that you're dividing into pieces. So if I want to find the decimal form of 3/5, I'm going to think of it as 3 divided by 5. So I'm going to write this fraction as a division problem. It's going to be always the top divided by the bottom. Then we can use long division or your calculator to find the equivalent decimal. So I'm going to work through this first two by hand, and then the last one we'll use our calculator to do the dividing on. So I've got 3 divided by 5. When I go to write this, the first number always goes in the box. So it doesn't matter if it's bigger or smaller, the first one goes into the box. Now 3 is smaller than 5. So I'm going to have a 0 up here. 0 times 5 is 0. When I subtract, I get 3. Now, there's nothing left to bring down. So in order to get the decimal equivalent, I'm going to add the decimal point and a 0 so that I have a digit I can bring down. When I add this decimal point under the box, I'm also going to add it on top of the box as well. And now I just keep dividing. So 5 goes into 30 6 times. And that's because 6 times 5 is 30. And this time when I subtract, I get a remainder of 0. So my subtraction is done. And this means that the fraction 3/5 is equal to 6/10. So 3/5 is equal to 0.6. Let's try this next example. So here we have 5/3. So we can write this as a division problem using that fraction bar. So this is the same as 5 divided by 3. Order is important when you're dividing, so it's always the top divided by the bottom. That first number or the top number goes into the box, and then the bottom number, which became the second number, goes on the outside. Now we can go ahead and divide. So 3 goes into 5 once, because 3 times 1 is 3. And when I subtract, I get a remainder of 2. Now, since we're looking for the decimal form, I'm going to add a decimal point after the 5, also up top. And I'm going to add in a 0 that I can then bring down. Now, 3 goes into 26 times, because 6 times 3 is 18. And when I subtract, I get a remainder of 2. So I didn't get 0 yet, so I'm going to add another 0 up top so I can bring it down. And 3 goes into 26 times, since 6 times 3 is 18. And when I subtract, I get 2. So I'm going to add another 0 and bring it down. 3 goes into 26 times, because 6 times 3 is 18. When I subtract, I get 2. And I feel like I'm in a loop here. So notice that I've got 2018, 2018, 2018, and that this is going to keep happening because the next thing I would do is add a 0, which will give me a 20. So 3 goes into 20 6 times because 6 times 3 is 18, and that's just going to keep happening. So this means that 5/3 is not a terminating decimal, but a repeating decimal. 5/3 is going to be 1 point repeating 6s. All right, so let's go ahead and work through this last one using our calculator. So I have 132 over 375. This means the numerator, 132, divided by the denominator, 375. Again, you could set up your long division box and work that one out, but I said we'd use our calculator for this one, so let's do that. So I'm going to type in 132 divided by 375. And when I hit equal, it tells me 0.352. So that gave me 0.352. So this means the fraction 132 over 375 is equal to 352 thousandths. There we go. So I've got a few problems here that you can try on your own. Write each of these fractions as a division problem first. That's what we did kind of as our first steps here. And then you can use either long division or your calculator to find the decimal equivalent. In the next video, we'll go in the other direction. We'll start out in decimal format and see how we can get that to be in fraction form. So I'm looking forward to seeing you then. In the meantime, have an excellent day.